If you've been thinking about launching your own YouTube channel or your podcast or your blog, but you've been struggling to figure out what the hell you talk about, this video is for you. Hi and welcome back to the show. My name is Leruste and I'm the founder and host of the Unconventionalists. And if you're new to this channel, then you'll want to know that every single week I release a video with my top tips on what it really takes to build a meaningful business. So if that sounds like it's right up your street, make sure to click on the button below and subscribe to the show. Today's question comes from Jorge. I don't really know how to pronounce it. George, I'll call you George, from Spain. And he says, I have trouble with finding what I would really want to talk about, and I feel overwhelmed with the content and info that I would need and if it would be good enough to keep it going. Now, George or Jorge, first of all, thank you for reaching out via Instagram and sending me a question. And this is a question I get all the time. So I teach a 2-day bootcamp on how to launch your world-class podcast from scratch. And one of the biggest questions I get from people is like, but I'm not 100% sure what I would want to talk about. Now, there are 3 elements to this, right? It's like, I don't know what I'll talk about, and I don't know if it's good enough, and I don't know how I'll manage to keep it up. So here's like one of the biggest myths that people have. Most people think that they couldn't do a daily blog or a daily podcast or a daily YouTube channel because they'd run out of ideas to write or talk about. Well, actually, that's totally not the case. In fact, on the contrary, everyone that I've known who's actually gone through this process, and me included, something happens. When you start churning out and you start creating on a daily and a regular basis, you make more space, and it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the more it comes, and then suddenly you realize that you've got constantly things to do. So one of the things, Jorge or George, if you're not sure about what to talk about, I always go for like, what are you interested in? What are you curious about? Because chances are, whatever you're curious or interested about is something that you already know quite a lot about, and it's something that you would love to know more about, right? So instead of thinking about what do people want to hear, I always tell people, what do you love talking about? Because people can hear when you're enthusiastic or passionate or into something, right? Rather than when you're just doing strategically. So my big number one advice for you would be figure out what is it the thing that you love talking about. What is something that you could talk about with friends over a beer or a green smoothie or a coffee, whatever you're into, and that you would just love to share and tell more about. That'd be the first one in terms of finding your topic, right? The second thing in terms of like, is it going to be good enough? Now, this is something that I think is way more than all the technical aspect or even the subject or topic of conversation. This is a deeper problem that I see so many people struggle with this idea of like, who am I to put this content out there? I'm no expert, right? And there's so many people out there shouting crap. I don't want to add to the noise. But then when you go a level deeper, it's actually, am I good enough? Will people reject me? What if I stand out and put my neck out and I get criticized and judged? But here's the thing. If you try and live your life and just fitting in and just coasting underneath the surface, then that's not living. And what I want for you is to find the courage, to find it in you to go, who cares what people think? If I get to show up and speak up about something I'm passionate about, I know that one person out there will hear it and love it and need it. That's always I say to people is don't focus on the masses, focus on the one, right? Think about a friend who you love talking about this with and imagine you talking to them. Right? Put that in your mind instead of your saboteurs, of your limiting belief, of your gremlins around, are you good enough? Because the answer is you are good enough. You may not feel like it, but you are. And I often find that if we wait too long to get the feeling of security and confidence that we hope that will come before we get started, it may never start and it may never come. And thirdly, your question around, will you be able to keep it up? I can't think of many topics that you would run out of conversation with. I actually did an exercise with a group of MBA students recently where I taught them about how to build a personal brand and raise their profile. Well, so actually you can take any topic or subject that you love or you're into and you can make a little twist and relate it to something more leadership based or more business based, right? So I had, for example, one of the participants, he's an amazing guy and he's into reef conservation. Now, I don't know anything about reef conservation, right? And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But chances are most people don't have a lot of a clue about what it takes. And so he's really passionate about it. And I said to him, okay, cool. And I gave this challenge to the rest of the group. I said, take that topic, for example, reef conservation, and link it back to leadership. What does reef conservation can teach you about leadership? And you see, just like that, you take a topic that you might think might have its limits, and you suddenly broaden up again because you can link it to other things that you're interested in. So there you go. I hope Jorge or George, I hope that was helpful in some way, and I really hope that you go out into the world and create your podcast or your YouTube channel or your blog, and that you let me know so I can talk about it, share it, and inspire other people like you who felt blocked and who finally pull the trigger. If this video was helpful in any kind of way, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the show. And even better, share with a friend who needs to hear this. Remember, your message matters only if you have the courage to go out there and share it. I'll see you next time.